Hello, this is Johnny Henson, Professor Poole with Billiard University at Goodyear, Arizona. Today I'm going to take time to explain why beginners and even low amateur players really need to consider some sort of professional pool instruction. There's a lot of videos on YouTube and a lot of tips on how to do this and how to do that, but the vast majority of players don't really benefit a lot from watching those videos. I've had people come to my seminars and even do Zoom lessons with me, and they're amazed at what I do in just a short period of time when they've actually been watching YouTube videos for some of them for years. And they say, you've helped me more than in a few hours than what I've learned on watching YouTube videos for a long time, okay? So if you're somebody who's really wanting to improve your game, you're maybe a beginner or you're just an average player, I would like for you to consider professional pool instruction. That's what this video is all about, is explaining what professional pool instruction is all about. And if you're somebody who's really wanting to take your game to the next level, I believe this video you're getting ready to watch right now is going to be one of the most important videos that you're going to watch. The first thing you're going to learn when you come to a professional pool instructor like myself, the first thing that we're going to be working on is your stroke. Your stroke is responsible for probably 75% of all the shots that you miss is because you didn't misaim the shot. You were unable to deliver your cue stick in a straight line toward your object ball. Maybe you didn't hit dead center on the cue ball, so you had deflection either to the right or to the left because you didn't hit dead center. It could be your stroke. It could be that you're not hitting the cue ball dead center. It could be a lot of things. And so the first thing we're going to do to improve your game is we're going to work on your stroke. I'm going to briefly go over the 10 parts to a perfect stroke. Where these parts came from is basically professional pool instructors helping professional players play better. And we take a note that if somebody's a professional pool player, they must be doing something right. So these are 10 parts of the stroke that, based on professional players, if they're doing these parts correctly, they have a world-class stroke, okay? Now how this is rated is there's 10 parts, and if you rate each part on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 meaning perfect, then 10 times 10 would be 100%. So if you tested these on film and they came out to 100%, you would have a perfect stroke, okay? So let's just kind of briefly go down the list. Bridge length. Okay, bridge length is going to be where your bridge hand consistently is put onto your cue stick. And now that's going to be measured from your cue tip all the way to wherever your hand or your bridge hand is. Okay, that's what we call bridge length. Stroke length is a little different. It's how far back are you pulling your stick each time. Now, keep in mind, if you don't have a consistent bridge length, you'll never have a consistent stroke length, because if you put your hand here, you're not going to be able to draw it back as far as if you put your hand here. So that's now there's a lot of reasons why having a consistent bridge length and stroke length is just crucial to you playing good. Not only position play, but also speed control and many other factors, okay? A loose grip. Most players that come to my 3-day seminars, or most players that I train on Zoom lessons, they all have just very tight grips. And the tight grip is probably the #1 flaw that I run into for all players. I've been teaching pool professionally for over 15 years, and if you ask me what is the #1 flaw in people's strokes when they come to my school, it is having a tight grip on their stick. I mean, some people just have a death grip on it. And it's virtually impossible to play very good when you have a very tight grip on your stick, because not only does it affect your speed control, your accuracy, you do a little steering with your backhand and it just ruins everything. And so not having a loose grip is a major flaw, okay? Not having a level cue. You know, a lot of players you'll see, if you're in a pool hall, whatever, you'll see people have their stick up like this. Well, if you think about it, your energy vector is going down toward the table. It's not going to where you're wanting your cue ball to go. So if you have your stick up in the air like this and you're wanting to play good, good luck, because you're doing a little mini jump shot on almost every shot you shoot. So what we have to do is we work on getting people to get their stick low on the table, so when they're playing with a level cue, okay? Proper bridge. There's different bridges for different uses. I cover the 6 or 7 main bridges in my class. The reason is if you don't have a good bridge, you don't have a good foundation for your front hand, and it's going to cost you accuracy, it's going to cost you misses, and most players, especially beginners or even what I call low-level amateurs, don't have very good bridges. I mean, their bridges are not very good at all, and so that's one area that I really focus on trying to improve, you know, to help you, you know, take your game to another level. Okay. Now, the next one is going to be the pendulum, you know, and what happens is figure this is your arm, this is your grip hand, okay? Well then, most players don't realize, but you should make contact with your cue ball when your backhand or your grip hand is straight down. Well, sometimes people, they're contacting the cue ball when their arm is like this. Other people, they're contacting the cue ball when their arm is like this, when perfect would be to contact it when it's virtually straight up and down. And if you watch a lot of high-level pros on YouTube and just pay attention to their pendulum, they're not striking the cue ball way out here. They're not striking the cue ball way back up here. They're striking it when their pendulum or their elbow and their grip hand are pretty much straight up and down when they're actually contacting the cue ball. Okay? So with that being said, that's called the pendulum. And that's one of the things that when I really work on with students in developing a world-class stroke is all these parts of the stroke are important, okay? Cue ball address. I mean, a lot of the times when you're a fairly new player, maybe a beginner, or you're really not all that good just yet, you tend to get nervous when you're around the cue ball. And so you start backing away. I had a person come to class who was a relatively new player, and he couldn't draw the ball at all. And he was addressing his Q-tip to his cue ball was 2 inches away from the cue ball. Well, even if he was perfect 2 inches away from the cue ball, he would never be perfect when he's actually hitting the cue ball. So all I did is I corrected him. I brought him in real close to his cue ball. He said, "Ooh, that makes me nervous." I said, "Well, you're going to have to practice this." And so he did, and within a short period of time, he was able to do draw shots for the first time in his lifetime. Okay? Eye patterns. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but just so you know, like your eyes are going to your target ball. They're going back to, you're seeing where you're putting your Q-tip on your cue ball. So your eyes are kind of going back and forth. What I'd like to share with you as far as eye patterns go is the fact that if you're giving your brain 2 or 3 or 4 different things to do at the same time, your brain don't do it very well. And so what we do is, in developing a world-class stroke, we're going to break the different parts of your ball address to the finishing of the shot into different parts. So it only gives your brain or your body one thing to do at a time. And that alone is going to help you take your stroke and your game to another level, okay? Another thing is a slow backstroke. The reason is, I'm just going to do this by demonstrating. I'm jerking. See, when you jerk your cue stick back, like a lot of people do, you can just see the body motion that goes. A lot of people, what they do is they jerk their stick back and then they jerk their stick forward and their head's going like this the whole time they're shooting. So it's no wonder that they're not very good players and they're not very consistent. And they can't repeat a shot more than, they can't hit a shot and then set up the same shot again and hit it again, because they're going to do something different every time they hit, okay? So what we want to do with a slow backstroke is we're trying to slow the backstroke down to where we don't have body movement, among other things. And so there's also other things that I teach that go along with this, but I'm trying to keep it pretty straightforward and simple on this video, okay? Lastly is going to be a smooth follow through to a finished position with no elbow drop, not dropping your elbow on your way to the cue ball or after you hit the cue ball, and no head or body motion, and also stand down and freezing to evaluate. The reason I bunch all those together is that's basically what I call the delivery of the cue stick. And most players do not deliver their cue stick very good at all. They may set up pretty good, they may have a pretty decent stance, there may be a lot of little things that they do fairly good. But when it comes to actually delivering the cue stick to the cue ball and staying down without having a lot of body motion or elbow drop or other flaws, most players do not do that very well at all. And that's why most players' strokes test out at about 25% when I put them on film for the first time. Now think about that. If you gave me 100 players at your local pool hall or from your league or from wherever you normally play, if you gave me 100 players, the average stroke, if I tested it, would be 25% on film. 25%, no higher than that. And I've been doing this 15 years, so I'm pretty confident that those numbers are going to hold up all the time. And the reason is most people do not have a good stroke. And then they always are working on the tip of the day or the tip of the month, or are trying to watch this video or that video, trying to correct these little flaws, when in reality, the only way they're going to correct their stroke flaws is probably to seek out a professional pool instructor. And that's just the truth. And so this is basically just the stroke part of what I teach to beginners and also mid-level players, And once you straighten out this and you take a stroke from 25% up to 100%, or I wouldn't say 100%, but 25% to maybe over 90% correct, which is my average, which is what I do with every student, over 90% on day 3, then they've already got a world-class stroke. Now, there went 75% of their misses is because of stroke. Well, guess what? I took their stroke from 25% to 90%. Well, guess what? They're never going to play like they used to. It'll be impossible for them to play like they used to. Their game is instantly going to go to the next level. Another thing that's very important that you learn is how energy is being transmitted from this cue stick, or more importantly, maybe the cue tip, to your cue ball. A lot of people, they kind of poke at the cue ball, their delivery is not very good, and because they don't really understand the transfer energy between the cue stick and the cue ball. Just understanding the science, ballistics, and physics of that energy transfer is going to change a lot of the ways that you do things, especially incorrect ways that you do things. So energy transfer from the cue tip or the cue stick to the cue ball is crucial from taking your game from where it is now to the next level. Another thing that I want to cover with new students, especially beginners, is they've probably been taught by maybe what they consider pretty good players. It gets back to the tip of the day or the tip of the month club, okay? They've been told, well, to really take your game to the next level, you're going to have to learn how to use English, okay? So basically, you're going to do high right, high left, low right, low left. You're going to do anything and everything except to hit the center of the cue ball, okay? Well, what the reality is, if you're not hitting the center of your cue ball, then you're getting left or right deflection, okay? Now, we've all heard about these low deflection shafts. Well, one of the reasons why people are buying them, I mean, some of those sticks cost probably $1,000. And the reason they're buying them is because they don't hit in the center of the cue ball. They're always hitting on the left or the right of the cue ball from shot to shot to shot. So they're getting deflection. Now, a low deflection shaft don't say no deflection, it says low deflection. So you're still getting deflection, you're just going to get a little less of it than you would if you were using a regular cue. What I'm going to teach you how to do is play more in the center of your cue ball, and that way you're not going to be getting the deflection to the left or the right on every other shot, and you're going to become a very, very, very consistent player, and you're going to take your game to the next level. Another thing that I teach is aiming and alignment. Okay? Aiming and alignment, most people don't realize that, when you're aiming, you're kind of lining up for a shot, there's a shot line, or your aiming line. But then what you also have to do is you have to get your entire body, your head, and everything in alignment with that. And the reason that most players, when I get them in class for the first time, they're explaining to me why they're having a lot of trouble, especially like on long shots or very, very thin shots, the length of the table. It's the reason is because they don't have a consistent body alignment, or what I call head over the cue alignment. And so aiming and alignment go hand in hand. Somebody can look at a shot and they can figure out exactly where to hit the ball. But if they're not aligning their body with that shot line, they're not going to make that ball. And so aiming and alignment is something that I cover with students. And it's pretty dramatic. Once they really figure out how to truly aim and align and put it all together, they're progressing very, very, very quickly. Another thing too is, especially for beginners or relatively low-level players, is speed control. An example was, let's say you're shooting a ball and you're going to be coming off the rail for about a foot and it's going to leave you perfect. Well, a lot of players, what they'll do is they'll either under-hit the ball or they'll over-hit the ball, and so the cue ball never ends up where they really want it to be. And so basically, without having a consistent stroke, which is, the 10 parts to a perfect stroke, which I've already covered earlier, then you're not going to have good speed control. Okay, and if you don't have good speed control, you're not going to have no real true control on where you're going to leave your cue ball. So if you have a perfect stroke, well then if you can learn a world-class speed control system to go along with that perfect stroke, then you can start leaving your cue ball exactly where you want to leave it. And that's going to be huge. Even you take a low-level player who maybe don't have the greatest shot-making ability just yet, but if he can leave his cue ball in easy spots, he can run a rack. You don't have to be a great shot maker if you're leaving yourself easy shots. And so basically, that's why speed control is really, really crucial. But you're not going to have really good speed control ever unless you have a world-class stroke. If you have a 90% or greater stroke and you learn speed control, you're going to be very, very good at speed control because you're going to have a consistent stroke where you're going to be able to deliver that cue at that speed. A lot's been said about collision-induced throw, or CIT. I cover that in my class. I make it so simple that most people can truly understand it. A lot of times I tell people what you need to do is consciously allow for collision-induced throw on a shot, if there is any, and do that ahead of time as part of your original aiming system. So therefore, let's say that that on this particular shot you're going to get, let's say, a half a ball collision-induced throw. Well, if you aim, let's say, a half a ball outside the pocket, then your ball is going to be in the pocket when you hit it. And so by fine-tuning your aim and allowing for collision-induced throw, or even understanding it. I mean, it's shocking to me how many students, when they come to my class for the first time, or I teach them on YouTube, truly understand collision-induced throw and truly know the effects of it. And so I think that's one of the biggest problems that a lot of players have when they get up to a shot and they miss it, and they have no knowledge on how did I miss that? That wasn't even that hard of a shot. Well, they probably didn't allow for collision-induced throw. It threw the ball off a half ball and they missed the ball. Just that simple. So that's something we will definitely cover. Another thing that I cover in my, especially in my seminars, is not only do I want you to have a world-class stroke, but I also want you to have a world-class aiming system to go with that stroke. I've covered different aiming systems on YouTube, but I truly believe that no aiming system will work with a poor stroke. So if somebody says, what's more important for me to teach you? An aiming system, like the fractional aiming system, center to edge, a ghost ball, on and on and on. I teach something called calibrated aiming routine. But if you said, Johnny, you have a choice. You can either teach me an aiming system or you can teach me how to have a world-class stroke. Easy. Without a world-class stroke, you'll never be able to master an aiming system because your stroke's so inconsistent. So the aiming system works great with a world-class stroke. So the two go hand in hand. It's not one or the other. That's why most people watching YouTube videos on aiming systems, they try them for a while and then they just give up on them. It's not because the aiming system is flawed. It's because their stroke is so poor and inconsistent that the aiming system will never work for them. And then they'll kind of go back to, I guess, whatever they were doing before. But what I want you to do is I want you to learn both. I want you to have a world-class stroke and also a world-class aiming system. A lot of players, beginner or even low-level players, they say, well, how am I going to train myself to play to the next level? Well, it's simple. You have any problem with any part of your game, I will promise you I have a drill that will fix it. Okay? Let's say you have an elbow drop. Well, I got a drill that will fix that. Let's say you have a poor cue ball address. I have a drill that will fix that. Let's say that you're having whatever the problem is, drawing the cue ball. Well, there's a drill that will fix that. So what it is no matter what your problem is, keep in mind, there's a drill that will focus in on that problem, and if you practice that drill, then you will overcome that particular problem. I believe not being focused in practice on drills is the reason most players will never, ever take their game to the level that they want. They'll never be satisfied with their game. And the reason for that is, let's say you're having trouble with something, and let's say you're just basically throwing balls out on the table and running them off, or you're breaking racks and trying to run the rack, and you're not focusing in on anything. You're just basically pocketing balls, so basically I call it being a ball banger. You just go down and you just bang balls into the pockets, and you think eventually through, I guess, osmosis that you're going to learn to address the problems that you have. But let's say that you're having, let's say you're having problems shooting long shots. Well, don't it make sense that we would shoot, let's say, 20 or 30 long shots every day till we don't have problems with that anymore? Let's say we're having trouble drawing the ball. Well, don't it make sense that we maybe work on setting up a couple of balls and trying to draw them back at different distances, okay? Let's say we're having problems stopping the ball. Well, maybe we set up a drill where we're just trying to do stop shots at different distances. See, if you focus in on what the problem is, whatever the problem is, and you work on a drill that will address that problem, it just makes sense that problem is going to slowly get better and better and better until hopefully eventually you don't have the problem at all. The problem just goes away because you're able to overcome it. So anyway, just so you know that not only with all this training, I try to really focus on giving you at least a drill that you can work on different problems, and that way as you're practicing is focused, and you're not just willy-nilly just going down there and throwing balls out on the table and trying to pocket balls. I guess that's okay, I guess it's fun, but it's definitely not going to take your game to where you really need it, okay? One last thought I would like to share with you. I've been teaching pool for 15 years, and I can honestly tell you that winning is not coming to you, you're going to it. So most people, they think, oh, I'm going to buy this book, or I'm going to watch this DVD, or I'm going to get my couple of tips from my friend, you know, Jim or Bob, and then my game's going to go to another level. Your game probably won't go to a really, really good level without professional instruction. And if professional instruction is just not in your ability to accept, then it's going to be a long road being a pool player. I mean, I'm just being very, very honest with you. Best players in the world have professional pool instructors. Most state champions have had pool instruction. You know, even top-level amateurs, a lot of them have had instruction. I can watch film of tournaments, and I can show you the players that have gone to a professional instructor, and I can also show you the players that have probably never been to a professional instructor, just based on the way they play and the way they stroke their cue stick. Because if they've had professional instruction, there's going to be certain flaws that are not going to be there. And if they've never had professional instruction, there's going to be a lot of flaws that are going to be there. And those are not the kind of flaws that you get rid of by buying a book or watching a video or doing anything that you can do on your own. So what I would highly recommend, if you're a beginner or a relatively low-level player, then what I would like for you to consider is giving professional pool instruction a try. With me, I have Zoom lessons. So, you know, let's say that you don't live anywhere close to Goodyear, Arizona. Well, then, if you're anywhere in the world, I can teach you via Zoom. And I've had very, very good luck with people over the internet giving them lessons. And so, contact me. And if you want to take your game to the next level, then give me a try. All I'm asking for is for you to give me a try and let me help you with your game.